innovative doorknob. Even doorknobs can be improved upon. If a door is locked, it should not be available to even try and open. No, you may not enter my room. This doorknob says you're not even allowed to try. This is my answer to privacy now. I hope the babies I was born with at the hospital doing good. Freshman year of college, I, a simple lesbian, met a gay dude and we instantly clicked and started talking about our childhoods and stuff. I discovered we were born in the same hospital on the same day, so we became each other's beards and watched what? Together every weekend? That sentence started and ended in very different places. Quiz. Why do lobsters have one claw bigger? They evolved to handle different prey. The larger crusher claw cracks open harder prey like a molar tooth, whilst the smaller pincer claw rips apart soft prey similar to an incisor tooth. They're lopsided. Oh, I see. Yay! Last night, I dreamt Tumblr added like a billion buttons to the mobile app, so instead of this, we got this, and everyone just rolled with it. But sometimes the wide Naruto got too wide and blocked off all the other buttons, and people would just post, got Naruto'd again, and the only way to reset him was to log out and log back in. The prince has begun practicing curtsying in the mirror, which could mean nothing. We have good news and bad news, my liege. The good news is that we now know what the curtsying was about. You will be pleased to know that, after several heartfelt conversations between your child, the court jesters, and a myriad of singing woodland creatures, you are now the parent of a proud and joyful new princess. The bad news is that, due to a series of events related to the dragon-sized hole in her bedchamber wall, thinking again about how the names Arctic and Antarctica just mean bears and no bears. So, as an Antarctic expert, I need to add to this that we had not in fact been to Antarctica when it was named. The ancient Greeks decided that because there was an Arctic at the top of the world with bears, there had to be an opposite at the other end without bears, which is kind of ridiculous, except they were dead on. I think I got cutie pie syndrome, doc. I keep telling you, that is not real. Please, you gotta help me. Turns to you, the viewer. Did you imagine me as a man doctor while you were reading this? Yes, because he's telling the patient they're making it up. A mom just came in so excited to find a map store because her son would love it. She tries to be coy. My son is really into maps. Real special kid. I'm like, ma'am, this is a map store. Half my customers are on the spectrum. I have a trains and transit section. You're among friends. Sir, this is a Wendy's equals. I have no idea why you're here for that, but this is possibly the least relevant place for you to be right now. Ma'am, this is a map store equals. This is an even more relevant place for you to be than you know yet. My extremely controversial gaming opinion is that they should allow you to obtain meat in Stardew Valley, and while I understand that the vast majority of people might not want to play with it, I also think somewhat that the absence of any such mechanics in a farming simulator is a sign of broader disconnection and alienation from where food comes from, etc. Farming game. Unable to raise animals for meat because that's not cozy enough. Where do you think meat comes from in real life? Divorce-themed restaurant menu. Dessert custard e-battle. Yeah, that's all I've got so far, sorry. She took the kids menu. I use Kermit as a model for the priesthood for several reasons. He wears a collar, visible, he's very reflectful, prayerful, he gives good advice, verbal, he leads by example, does the right thing, and he's an overall great guy. I was trying to find out if Kermit was eligible to be Pope, and I found a blog that says he's the perfect example of a Catholic priest. What do you expect? He's a man of the cloth. I feel like every year the girl names get more boyish. Like, what do you mean you are a teenage girl named Ian? And this leads to an escalation on the boy name front, where like, once upon a time, stuff like Hunter was something parents in the Bush era made up to reassure people there was no gay stuff going on with their kids, and now the most famous trans woman in the country is named Hunter, so pretty soon, we're gonna need to call the boys stuff like Blade and Laser. I'm gonna be teaching in 2030, and all the girls are going to be named Arnold and Connor, and all the boys are going to be named Gun. I don't know what neurodivergent young adult needs to hear this, but you are not supposed to give 100% at your job. I've gotten more promotions and raises since I started giving 40 to 60%, which my evil CEO uncle informed me is what bosses actually expect when they say 110%. My mental health is improved tremendously. I spent 2 out of 5 workdays secretly writing my novel for the last 2 years, and I've never been more respected and appreciated. Also, when you see glaring wasteful errors in the company's operating systems, say absolutely nothing. Embrace inefficiency. It is your friend in this capitalist hellscape. Having your main anxiety response be avoidance is crazy, because you'll think you're chilling and then one day you're like, wait, I've been paralyzed with fear this whole time. Damn, was anyone else playing dead the whole time they were teenagers? Or is that just a me problem? Like, I'm 20 now and I'm like, oh, I didn't do anything because I'm scared. The thoughts, weed has many positive uses both medicinally and otherwise, and the criminalization of it is rooted in ignorance, racism, and classism, and weed can be harmful and mentally addictive to certain people, can and should coexist. As well as, weed smells awful and weed smoke is a migraine and asthma trigger for for many people, so it should be subject to the same limitations on cigarette public use. Seriously, y'all 420 aficionados don't get to call it skunk and then pretend it smells nice. This was one of those posts that summarized my feelings on an issue better than I ever had myself. I have noticed in recent years that men say no homo way less often than they used to, when I was in high school at least. Like, I've witnessed in media and online and in person, adult men just willing to say I love you or you look great to their guy friends without tacking a no homo onto the end of it. And if you think that's not progress, you weren't there in the trenches. I've seen middle-aged comedians on national TV sincerely say I love you to their friends with no jokes attached. Nature is so slow to heal, but it is possible, I tell you. We have planted trees and seen them survive. Someone at an old job asked why I wanted to write up the meeting minutes for our team, and I said I want to control the narrative, and they were like, what? And I pointed out that no one was going to remember what we said in 6 months, so my interpretation of the meeting would dictate the assumed reality of what happened. None of you ever send corrections when I offer the draft, so y'all have consented to my version. We don't read that. You must trust me implicitly to create our shared reality. That's so sweet. That's how several co-workers decided I was a supervillain, and how I learned several co-workers didn't understand record keeping as like a concept. My body at 3 a.m. Let's wake him up for no reason. My body 10 minutes till alarm. Let's make him feel more comfortable than he's ever felt in his entire life. One of my favorite games to play is my headache from dehydration, caffeine withdrawal, lack of proper nutrition, my ponytail, stress, lack of sleep, not wearing my glasses, or brain tumor? 5 years ago, I shat myself in an escape room. It is my brother's favorite story. Today, he had frontal lobe surgery and there was potential for memory loss. This is the first text he sent me from recovery. I survived the surgery and I still remember what happened in the escape room. Always so funny to me when people are like, how am I supposed to explain gay to my kids? My kids ask me way harder stuff all the time. Why did they build the road this way? Why are some people bad? I don't know. Please ask me about gay. Cars reboot in the style of the movie Cats, and all the cars are just humans walking around naked, but with a metallic sheen, and they have wheels at the ends of their limbs. Their faces are human faces, but with car headlights instead of eyes. OP, I have some bad news for you about another Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. I didn't want this to be the way I learned about Starlight Express, but here we are. There's a lady on the train knitting so aggressively and quickly that her needles clack like some sort of cartoon character, and I am super intimidated. She smashed out a shawl in like 35 minutes, and now she's aggressively eating a sandwich. I can't. That sandwich is gone. Packet of chips? Gone. Fuel for the knitting machine that she is. She's at it again. Walter White was many things, but it is extremely funny how he neglected his own flesh and blood teenage son in order to be an even worse father to a wholly different guy. Walter White. Fighting for my friggin' life in the work group chat because nobody else has curly hair. Freaky Ted, why have you done this to me? Crazy bartender with the curly hair and that look on her face like she was ready to kill me. And then herself. I will pay you extra to spit in my drink. You're an absolute maniac, and that was one hell of a mark. Blessings to your bloodline. You could get up early and do it before work. I could also wait for a magic beanstalk to start growing in my living room. Let's focus on things that happen in the real world. While doing an important research, I discovered that foxes can, in fact, become a loaf. It costs the taxpayer millions for this research. No one complained as it was vital. You must nurture the silliness everywhere you find it. In your mind, in the ramblings of children. In the quirky way an indoor plant grows as it adjusts itself to better find the light. You must nurture the silliness in all of its forms. It is our oldest tool against the horrors. It is the harbinger of hope. Stay silly. It's the only way. The fact that Dante created the most popular image of the afterlife with absolutely no theological basis for it will still be the funniest thing to me. Church. Heaven is eternal connection with God, while hell is totally separate from him. Anything else is only speculation. Dante. Actually, hell has layers like an onion, and the devil is big and mean and also frozen. People are fighting, and there's a mountain to get to heaven and a nice place for babies. Also, I know this because I went there with my friend. I had a dream where I astral projected into hell with the famous poet Virgil, who I am totally best bros with. I wrote a poem about it if you want to read it. I don't know. Thank you, King. I am commissioning fan art of you. We only use the quietest of potatoes to make our famous hush browns. I open my Tumblr app and read this post, and I let it wash over me like the gentle tide. I know that when I die, this post, like the sweetest of sea foams, will be there to take me lovingly into the depths. The Americans had a weakness. They smoked cigarettes and left a trail we could easily track. Every time I learn new things things about Vietnam, it's like the Vietnamese had some kind of mystery superpower, death magic or something. The Americans weren't trained to avoid pointy sticks. I love those asking cosplayers at a con what their day job is videos, because it's always like muffled voice issuing from a huge suit of armor, I'm a cybersecurity specialist. Or it's like, woman in a bunny suit, I'm a PhD candidate in neuroscience. Guy in a fully operational digit-grade mech suit, I bag groceries. Yeah, I built it myself from scratch. There's got to be at least one trans woman named Eve out there whose dead name is Adam, and she's the funniest person to ever grace this earth with her presence. My mom knows a trans woman named Helen whose dead name is Troy, which I think is pretty epic. She's right. Personalized ads are so funny to me. Hey, we've been spying on you and tracking your every move. It's a culmination of state-of-the-art technology and an unprecedented invasion of consumer privacy. A room full of men with made-up jobs bent their will toward decades of constructing this system, defending it in court, and tirelessly innovating new ways to aggregate more data about you. And the end result is, yeah, so we saw that you recently bought a car, so here's an ad for that car. No, I'm good actually. You might be aware that I already have one. Amazon thinks my recent humidifier purchase was merely the inaugural move in a newfound hobby of humidifier collecting. We just found out our AI has been making up analytics data for 3 months, and I'm gonna throw up. So we've been using an AI agent since November to answer leadership questions about metrics. It seemed amazing at first. Fast answers, detailed explanations, everyone loved it. I just found out it's been hallucinating numbers this entire time. Our VP of sales made territory decisions based on data that didn't exist. Our CFO showed the board a deck with fake insights. The AI was just inventing plausible sounding percentages. I only caught it by accident when someone asked me to double check something. I started digging, and holy moly, it's bad. Wow, if only everyone warned you about AI hallucinations. Turkish crypto CEO sentenced to 11,196 years in prison after stealing $2 billion of customer funds. Bro, 11,000 years? They're imprisoning him in a giant cursed crystal. When are the stupid questions during interviews going to stop? I had an interview, and partway through, the interviewer asked me what my favorite drink is, and I said water. He gave me a weird look and said, come on, you can do better than that. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything, and we just sat there and looked at each other for about 15 seconds in silence. He stops the interview and says, I'm not what they are looking for. I'm not sure what that was all about, but I feel like I dodged a bullet. Screaming. This is what being autistic feels like, but for every question you get asked ever in your life. You know, Amy, anytime someone calls attention to the breaking of gender roles, it ultimately undermines the concept of gender equality by implying that this is an exception and not the status quo. It's been years since this line. Was Knuckles cooking here or not? I just watched my boyfriend hunt down a single ant by smell. Apparently, he has a genetic quirk that makes him extra sensitive to the smell of formic or possibly oleic acid, which is a chemical messenger for ants. He just caught a whiff and proceeded to locate one ant in our bathroom. He says that they smell like a mixture of blue cheese and gasoline. I guess I'm dating a human anteater? Imagine if your boyfriend was like, I can smell an ant, and started tracking. Remember that post that was like, what if everyone has a superpower but we don't really notice it because it's overwhelmingly likely to be something completely pointless? If you ever feel bad about yourself, just remember this one time in my English class. We were writing horror stories, and one of the girls wrote it was Friday the 13th, the night before Halloween, for her opening sentence. It's hard being a polyamorous action hero, because whenever I have flashbacks to all my dead wives, it takes like 20 minutes to get through all of it. It kind of sounds like you're just feeding local women to the dead wife montage. Apocalypse movie where the world-ending event is just the working class rising up together, and the movie is from the perspective of a ragtag group of NY billionaires trying to get to the coast so they can escape on their yachts. And it's a classic horror/thriller in that most of them do not make it, but at the end, one or two actually get to the coast, and they set sail on their mega yacht, making plans to just live at sea for a while until they look different enough that they can sneak back into society undetected. And then you just hear this loud thud, and the whole boat shakes, and the camera pans over to reveal like 100 orcas lining up to ram it. The boat cracks in half, and you hear their screams get swallowed up by the waters, and then it just cuts to the end credits. Thinking about this for absolutely no reason. Parents be like, you know you can talk to me about anything, right? And then make it extremely clear it will go very poorly if you talk to them about specific things. We make jokes here, but my mom is always like, you can tell me when you're feeling suicidal. So I tell her, and she starts crying and tells me how much I'm hurting her feelings by telling her that. This ain't about you, Mom. Who would you trust more? Total stranger in a Star Trek shirt or a total stranger in a Star Wars shirt? No exaggeration, the vote split on this poll is hysterical. Your daughters do not exist to give you grandchildren or domestic labor by the age of 7, and they're not a mini mom for their siblings either, or be your personal therapist. They're not here to live the life you wish you had. One may think language is French or spinach for the language. This is a folk etymology myth. It is actually more like mileage. How much language are you getting out of those words? I regret to inform everyone that this is actually not that far off the real etymology. The langue part of language comes from the Latin lingua, meaning tongue, and the age suffix is something the word picked up in Old French as a suffix of action, like how a pilgrimage is that thing pilgrims do. So really, it's more like what that tongue do. Well, that's upsetting. Oh, Spanish. You say you're queer, but you've blocked multiple queer blogs. What's the truth? I hate to break it to you, but queer people are still capable of being annoying. Hello, my name is J.R.R. Tolkien, and I wrote a whole book series about what it would be like if some funny little guys who just like to hang out and eat and have friends were drafted into a nightmarish conflict vastly beyond their understanding and were forever changed by it. Also, World War I was normal for me. There are multiple chapters that are set in hospitals where the characters are attempting to recover from injuries that never fully heal. I must once again stress that my experience in World War I was perfectly normal. There is a giant horrible mud plain full of unrecoverable and perfectly preserved dead bodies that the characters have to walk through in a land where the air is poisonous gas. And on a completely unrelated note, World War I was totally fine and normal. Phrases which, if you hear them come out of your own mouth or anyone else's, should prompt you to pause and reevaluate your situation. We don't have time to follow the official procedure. I can cut my own bangs. Do you think I should be wearing eye protection right now? I'll just trim up my bangs real quick before we leave. You marked that one as flammable, right? How long could it possibly take to properly trim my own bangs? 5 minutes? A watched nut never busts or something. I don't know what you people find funny anymore. 9/11. Why is this the one? Being a TA is so unserious. Why was my snow day email class canceled, no Zoom? If you want a 20-point bonus assignment, go build a snowman and send me a pic. Are you my TA for school? Oh no. Majoring in creative writing was a colossal mistake that ruined my life financially, artistically, socially, and spiritually. But I got to read aloud from my immortal to a crowd of 20 horrified bystanders for academic credit. So I broke even. The assignment was to bring a story written by someone else and share the first paragraph with the class. Nowhere in the assignment description or the syllabus did it specify that the story had to be good. Sony is run by people who would drown if it rained, and they still have no competition because Microsoft is the 8-year champion of slamming your D in a car door. And Nintendo is off singing and skipping joyously while spending all their Mario bucks on suing their fans. Thought about that quote, homosexuality exists in 1,000 plus species, homophobia only exists in one. But how awkward would it be if we discovered another species that was homophobic? Homosexuality exists in 1,000 plus species, homophobia only exists in 2. What? Oh, humans and the yellow-patched cuboid pinecone wren that was recently discovered on an island off the coast of Canada. They're friggin' bigots. Appeal to a wider audience is corporate lingo for strip more themes from a piece of media so it's safer and more sanitized for investors. I struck a nerve in the billionaire fandom with this one. Oh boo-hoo, go wipe away your big tears with your wads of cash, why don't you? Hot dog water is the exact opposite of holy water in that you can add a single drop of it to any amount of pure water and it will make the entire thing unpure. Now this is the kind of philosophical liturgy I come to Tumblr for. Finally, I can defeat the Pope. In fact, bisexuality was invented by exclusionist lesbians wanting to... I'm sorry, I probably should have just scrolled by cause don't want to be dragged into weird ahistorical LGBT Tumblr discourse. But what in the hell are some of you talking about? Bisexuality was actually made out of sourdough by a small Italian man in 1743. Care about people. You're the real oppressor for telling me what to do. Cut out this useless liberal proselytizing. You are an invertebrate and you will perish in the revolution. We have a new prize comment, which is pretty neurotypical of you to assume I have the capacity to care about other people. If I have to pay $7.99 to rent a 30-year-old movie off Amazon when I have a Prime subscription, then we should just reopen Blockbuster. I'd rather have their employees judge my life choices. Some of you youths are going to be real disappointed when you discover that turning 30 just means you still have all the same weird interests, but can't turn your head all the way to the left anymore. Weirdest things I did in Psychosis. My friend thought she was Lady Gaga for years. To this day, when she changes her profile picture to Lady Gaga, it means she stopped taking her meds. Congratulations. OMG, you are Finland. This sent me. Sent you where? Finland. Smash it with a hammer. Just kidding. I know that won't help. I just had an urge to say that. It's 4 a.m. and I am very alone. The human experience has been robbed from me. I don't even feel like a person. Haha. Easter egg for office workers. If you go onto Excel and press Ctrl plus left, then Ctrl plus down, you will reach cell XFD1048576. If you put a dot in there, then Ctrl A and fill every cell in black, you can then print 34 million black pages from your office printer and get fired. I have been doing breathing exercises for weeks. Meditation and thoughtfulness as well, obviously. I'm building up my psychic powers and focusing my chakras. When that one anon who spams the flat earth memes and humor threads starts posting here, I plan to track him down through the astral plane and kill him with my mind. What smell traumatized you for life? My stillborn child. Smell didn't leave my nose for a week, literally. Everywhere I went, I smelled death. My condolences. Bath & Body Works Japanese Cherry Blossom. Dante C. Cummings II, you is not allowed at my house anymore. I understand the stain, but how you leave your hands and feet in my carpet? Bro is just having a crazy struggle. Why did it do this? Was trying to make brownies. Thought they'd cooled for long enough and cut into them. Then they started doing this and set my house's fire alarm off for like 20 minutes. Does anyone please know what caused this? I'm assuming I just cut into them too soon, but this feels like a dramatic response to just trying to cut into a hot brownie. How can I stop someone from spectating me in every game? I played one game with a stranger in quick play, and now he keeps finding me and spectating my games, and whenever I do anything, he types, "Holy whiskers, you go, sisters," and it's really irritating. I tried blocking him, but he still finds me and comments on my games, and I just want it to end. Are stalagmites and stalactites made of different materials, or is it just their positions that distinguish them from each other? They could be, but also can be the same material. The two different names are just a reference to if they're on the ground or the ceiling. And I bet you suck on a binky too, right? The hell are you on about? I answered your question and that was it. Sight I saw in San Francisco twice. Gaggle of tiny children leashed together being herded along, everyone in high vis. These fools walk by my work twice a day and are never less in awe of whatever pruning tools I'm using at the time. I'm always like, yeah, haha, check these out. I'm an adult and my job is big scissors. I know there is an international rule that you can't come within 6 meters of wild penguins in the Antarctic, but I get so upset when a penguin walks up to a researcher and makes a greeting call and the researcher has to ignore it. At least say hello back. It's a polite thing to do. Me screaming at the video, he said hello. Don't be rude. What's it called when you're so disconnected from reality that cold water doesn't feel like anything and you can barely taste food anymore? Depersonalization, locking in, or Thursday. No one talks about how hard it is to go from being good at drawing for your age to adult lacking social skills with bad posture. Yes, I can draw my enemies pregnant, but at what cost? Being called cringe by another Tumblr user is just so. My sibling in Christ, you are also on the app. Before you mock the clown, take a look at thine own shoes and pay particular attention to the shoelaces. Something that really F's me up is how a large amount of society's undesirable adjectives are traits you can acquire due to disability. Unemployed, lives with their parents, provides little to no economic value, physically weak, neat, social outcast, burden on others, useless, out of shape, needs special care and attention, overly sensitive, medication reliant. Okay, but be real here. Who isn't taking anxiety medication these days? I want a big titty goth GF. Okay, bro, have fun talking about Invader Zim with a 31-year-old pharmacy tech. This is like going, oh, you want lemonade? Have fun drinking sugar and lemons. Like, bro, I will. That's why I ordered the lemonade. Shout out to the guy who created a parody account of CinemaSins, where instead of pointing out every single flaw in a film, he just pointed out things he liked about the movie. You're so right, Cinema Wins. It's so much more fun to like things. Cinema Wins once said, every movie, with very little exception, is someone's favorite. I like to find out why. And that sentence alone is worth more than every single thing the CinemaSins guys have ever created. Cis is a made-up word. Yeah, by the Romans, thousands of years ago. At the same time the word trans was. Because they're both Latin, you see. BS. The Romans grew their words naturally. Nothing but organic, sun-ripened words for the Romans. My old person trait is that I think a website should work in a web browser and not try to open up an app. My old person trait is I think video games should work without needing access to the internet. My old person trait is that I think when I purchase a product that it should be complete and functional and also that I should actually own it. My old person trait is that I think I should be able to talk to an actual person in order to resolve issues with my bills without waiting on hold for over 30 minutes. Guy and man have different connotations with adjectival nouns. Like tree guy equals arborist, but tree man equals he lives in a tree, or maybe he is a tree. I know a guy equals I have a useful contact. I know a man equals I'm about to tell you a story. The people who go, we shouldn't be so open about nudity because it could trigger someone's dysphoria, are like 2 steps max removed from fat people being fat in public could trigger someone with an ED. Like people's bodies are not the problem here. Trying to restrict someone else's body because of how you personally feel is indistinguishable from conservative praxis. I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, English, but there is basically no interpretation of "we need to control the bodies of demographic" that does not fall down the slippery slope of fascism. AI company, we train this dog to talk. It doesn't actually understand language, but it kinda sounds like it's having a conversation by mimicking the sound of human speech. CEO, awesome. I fired my entire staff. How quickly can it start diagnosing medical disorders? A dinosaur convention is doing more to punish those in the Epstein files than the entire American government. We at DinoCon take the safety of our attendees, speakers, and staff very seriously. As a result of the release of half of the Epstein files, it has come to light that a select number of scientists, authors, and researchers relevant to the field of paleontology allegedly engaged in correspondence with members of the Epstein organization after the conviction of Jeffrey Epstein. We want to state that all respective individuals are banned from all of our events. Additionally, we find it deplorable that some established paleontological organizations are not taking firm action to protect their members in light of these allegations. As such, executive committee members from organizations that are not issuing public bans to these individuals are also banned from our events. We do not tolerate those who allow this behavior to go unchallenged within our community. Damn, I'm trying to catch all these flies, but they think my vinegar is stupid. I have honey also, but that's for me. I can't give them any of that. Management trying to hire and retain employees. I hate when people are like, I really understand what it's like to be prey, to look up into the jaws of a predator and know it's my purpose to be consumed. Like, bitch, no. Prey runs away. Here's some other stuff. I know what it's like to be hamburger. Making the radical claim 11-year-old children should be taught how to make extremely simple food has resulted in people making arguments like, I wasn't allowed to plug in electronics until I was 16, and I think this is super normal actually, and children don't know what ratios are, so it's unfair to expect them to be able to comprehend the idea of adding equal amounts of rice and water into a rice cooker. And I gotta say, originally, I thought maybe I was being too judgy, but now I feel very secure in my opinion because what the hell? Hey you, teenage girl writing in her diary, quit talking about the boy you have a crush on and start writing about the current political situation, the valuation of currencies, and the level of technology your people hold. Your diary might be the only piece of evidence our society existed after nuclear war fries all of our data backups. Future historians don't need to know about Damien, they need at least a second-hand account of the greater water wars and whether or not your leaders truly did worship a deity called the free hand of the market. Alright, you could talk about the clothes that Damien was wearing, but only if you promise to define what each article of clothing actually is. Ideally, describing the materials they're typically made from also. The humble like is oft mocked despite what it does for us. Like, 3 people is a vastly different statement from 3 people. And I was like, what the F is vastly different from, and I said, what the F? I love you, like, and anyone who says you make people sound stupid will be axed on sight. Was going through some of my health records and some doctor put dresses oddly next to my psychotic symptoms. Hey, F you too, man. Symptoms? No drip. Stop saying start a family when you mean have kids. A couple is still a family. A single person and her cat is a family. A couple and their plants are still a family. 3 weirdly close roommates could be a family. You do not need kids to be a family. How will you make buses free? Well, how do we make libraries free? Public services aren't some radical concept. People already pay taxes. The money should go towards things that actually help them. Instead, we're told it's unrealistic to fund transit or healthcare, while subsidies and tax breaks flow freely to billionaires. We're not asking for a handout. We're just asking not to pay twice for what we've already funded. Study after study, humans are most productive when happy, properly rested, and in good health. Capitalism. Science has invented a new business chair that electrocutes you if you think about your wife. People who say friend slap, I assume, are just sad and lonely. No, they probably just joking, like most people who say Gorilla Han or Sneed Han. Who the hell says any of that? Is there a gas leak in your house? One time, I met a small autistic child at the vet and told him I'm autistic too. Then, he asked me if he could pet the kitten I had with me, and I said yes. When he was done petting her, his mom told him to say thanks, and he thanked the kitten. Astonishing how, whenever you go to the post office, the queue in front of you is made up almost entirely of people who appear to have ended up at the post office by accident, have in fact never visited a post office before, and have no idea what they want out of the experience. I was at the post office, and someone at the back of the line said, "Do you mind if I skip to the front? I just need to mail a package, and the bravest man in the world said, "Do you think we're all here for fun?" Here's a common scam that is going around that you should know about. Sometimes cats will meow at you like they haven't been fed, but in fact someone did feed them and they're just trying to get fed again. Stay alert. Did I seriously just interview someone today and I asked them why they wanted the job and they said, "To be transparent, it's for the money." I died and wrapped up that interview real quick. That's it, lady. That's why we want any job. It's for the money so we can eat food and have a roof over our head. Your company isn't special or some amazing thing. It's a job. Get over yourself. I'm currently in Kampala, Uganda, and just found this painted on the wall of a school. He found his way back to Uganda. The circle is complete. The story is finished. He found the way. Rest in peace, everyone who died of cancer and everything else. I have just did a mud run for cancer research. My brother died of everything else, so it means the world. Cheers, mate. You know when kittens meow and their eyes get a bit smaller because their faces are so little, they can't have their mouth and eyes all the way open at the same time? I think about it so much. This is what it's all about. What if I followed every account? Trying to follow as many accounts as I can in an attempt to learn something about the collective unconscious. A lot of racism on here. My son has a YouTube channel with 12 million subscribers. How do I tell him it's not a viable career option and shut down the account while not being despised? Who needs an enemy when you have parents like this? My boyfriend finally got the new computer he's been wanting. Why do they make these stickers so hard to remove? Ripping off those stickers is like ripping off honor medals from a soldier's chest. Told my dad that my wife and I were poly. We actually had it at our house. It was nice. Lisa and Ray cooked all day and I cleaned the house. Mom and Colleen came over. It was a great day. I was asleep by 9:30. Who's Ray? Lisa's partner. Super nice dude. Dead tired today, so I grabbed a coffee from the gas station, and the guy greeted me by trying to say, "Is that everything?" but fumbled and said, "Ega the by thin?" And me trying to say yeah or yup just went yip in response. No survivors. Ega the by thin? Yip. These cups will have you feeling like you're drinking water straight from a glacier or like you're drinking metal. There's no in between. Hands down the most refreshing 4 a.m. water known to man. Markiplier, I hope this fandom didn't scare you with all those weird posts that you might find. Or we already did it. We probably did it. Hands down, we're sorry. Because I am fragile Cinnamommo roll, too precious for this world, I can't handle the weird. I've seen myself getting booty blasted by Springtrap. I think I'm okay. She literally does not give a damn what that old fool is yelling about. The lion does not concern herself with papa. Should I have the leftover tamale that made me furiously sick yesterday? Or should I have something else? Have the tamale. Could you guys give your reasoning for choosing the tamale that gets me sick? I just want to hurt you. I don't trust the bookmark feature on Instagram, so for the past 2 years, I've been saving funny reels by DMing them to the French president. Thank God I wasn't born in France because I don't know how to speak French. Taking a class on sex this semester, which has resulted in many fun things like sex activity and sex final being added to my planner. Being very mature and serious about this. My partner did a sociology degree, and one of the modules was on organized crime. Very funny to see stuff like anyone doing organized crime this afternoon in a uni group chat. I love when the gender options are male, female, and prefer not to answer. Like it just reads as boy, girl, and what are you, a cop? I don't know you anything. My gender is come back with a warrant. Thinking about the time I tried out a fiction podcast and got bored immediately, but left it on for the whole first episode because my cat was visibly invested. She likes the sound of measured human voices. One time, I was talking and she got so enthusiastic, she body slammed her side into my face, cutting off the sound and breaking the spell, which frightened her into the next room. OP's cat will love Nile Red. This is the first time anyone's ever entrusted me with a media recommendation meant to be forwarded to my cat. I apologize to everyone whose grammar I ever corrected before I learned not to be a tool. You're forgiven. You're really sweet to do that. Thanks. Google Maps loves to be like, your bus arrived 2 minutes ago. Okay, it didn't though. I was here. I'll be sitting at the bus stop like, well, maybe did I miss it? Maybe I zoned out. As if a bus isn't the largest animal still on land. The stereotype of the nerd girl taking her glasses off and suddenly she's beautiful, but in reverse. A cold, tough, mean office lady who glares at everyone until she gets glasses and suddenly becomes sweet, approachable, and friendly since she no longer has a constant headache over not being able to effing see. Doesn't need to squint at everything and actually remembers individual people by name now that she can tell them all apart. Like this, OP? I'm still losing it over the how did high schoolers write 600-word essays before ChatGPT post. 600 words. That is nothing. This is so few words. What do you mean you can't write 600 words? 600 words. This post right here is 45 words. Today, I accidentally knocked a monarch caterpillar off its leaf and it fell and immediately began oozing green liquid. I was devastated. I thought I'd killed it. Turns out they do that on purpose to defend against predators. Fooled by a fat little worm. Irrecoverable. Are you more stupid than a bird? I think one of the best parts about being a teenager in the early to mid 2010s was that cigarettes were definitely not cool anymore, and vapes hadn't popularized yet, so my lungs made it out of my peak impressionable years relatively unscathed. Smoking, vaping, brief, glorious period in which the air didn't stink. Happy to report that Gen Alpha is using Elon Musk as a derogative as of recent. This came about because we were playing Mario Party last night, and I used Boo to steal a star, and our son called me Elon Musk. When I asked why, he said, "Because you didn't earn that. You're so strong." Thanks, I literally have no other effing choice. Who's forcing you to work out? I've just realized I misunderstood this post. One absolutely hilarious part of human existence is the repeated incidence of spicy bananas. People who have lived their entire lives up to this point just assuming that a specific fruit or vegetable is supposed to taste bitter, tangy, or spicy, having no effing idea that all this time they've been allergic to this plant. Because how would they have known? You learn what things taste like by tasting them. Nobody's going to tell you that bananas are supposed to be one of the mildest flavors out there. And people already eat so many things that taste hot, bitter, tangy, and tart because they like how that kind of thing tastes like. You can just happily munch on a plant thinking, ah, this angry plant tastes sharp because it hates me, much like all the other sharp angry plants that people eat because they like the sharp. And it wouldn't cross their mind to think that the plant just hates you specifically. Wait, shit, I'm probably allergic to kiwi. Me, looking up the definition of a word I totally know the meaning of, I just have to make sure it didn't change for some reason, or I made it up. Okay, but the few times where you do catch yourself using a word wrong, you thank yourself and know it was all worth it. My boyfriend thought I was joking when I said Chick-fil-A is closed on Sundays for religious reasons. America really is such a cartoon-ass country. You have a boyfriend? You're gay? Hold on. Chick-fil-A employee found my post. We don't talk enough about how stressful Halloween costumes are for the ADHD community. Oh my god, you people can't do anything. This tweet motivates me to get out of bed every morning. Yesterday, me and my girl went to the mall and a random guy was hitting on her. The reality is, if you date attractive women, they're gonna get hit on. Read the caption to see how I handled it. Uh-oh. What's the weirdest thing about American culture? Every 20 years or so, they declassify a file that says, "You're right, we did it. What are you going to do about it?" Never stops being darkly funny to me that doctors struggle to diagnose autism while a 12-year-old bully can do it in 10 seconds flat. Flag of the British Empire collapsing. This is what J.K. Rowling sees in her nightmares. Oh, Harry Potter, Dobby is now Dobina. The bad guy in Hallmark movies is a boyfriend who is like, no babe, I can't drop everything plus leave work. This weekend, I'm about to close a deal for $10 million that will set us up for life. And the good guy is a guy who is just standing there when she gets to her hometown. Sorry to call you out like this, Mom. Imagine pulling up to Coachella, selling these, and watching people's mouths fill up with towels. 10-pack of portable, disposable, compressed towels. Perfect for outdoor travel and hiking. This CAI lawsuit reminded me how, at 17, the one time I used it, I ended up developing psychosis of Miguel O'Hara, then hallucinated him telling me to leave my groomer. And I literally did. Literally, I'm no contact and completely away from my abuser because Spider-Man told me to.